This is the top flap of section 1 in the Unit 3 flipbook called Quadratic Functions. And before we even get into quadratic functions, we need to do a little bit of review. You should be familiar with this part, but I want to go over it with you, make sure you understand names and terms and the basic idea behind evaluating a function. So take a look at the screen right now. You'll see that I have some stuff filled in for you. Our essential question for this section is, how do I evaluate a function? How do I evaluate a function? And to evaluate a function means to plug in an input value, which will happen to be our x-axis value on a graph, and calculate what the output value will be, which is the y-axis value of the graph. So basically what we're doing with the function is we're plugging in input values, or x-axis values, and from that out comes output values, which are the y-axis values. So let's take a look at a typical function. Here is an equation written in function notation. The first thing I want to review is how we say this. And to know how to say this, we have to know what this f stands for. So in this case, this particular equation, let me change that color for you. This particular equation is known as, or this particular function is known as function f. So that first letter tells you what the name of the function is, function f. We can use any letter we want for the function name as long as it's not the same as the variable or the the input value that we're plugging in. So this is function f, and what this definition for evaluating a function means, we're going to plug in a value here, which this is our input value. It's our input value, and we can say that that is going to be plotted on the x-axis. It's going to be on the x-axis of our graph. And then once we plug that in, we'll put this in our calculator or do the math manually, and out will come our output value. Our output value, which happens to be the value that is graphed on the y-axis of our graph. So these are the terms I want you to be familiar with. The input value, which is our x-axis, the output value, which is our y-axis, that this is called function f. And the way we say this math sentence is f of x is equal to negative 4x squared plus 4x plus 8. You could also say function f is equal to negative 4x squared plus 4 plus 8. All right, let's go ahead and evaluate a couple functions. So here we have f of x, or function f, is equal to 4x minus 8. 4x minus 8. And before we can evaluate it, we have to pick an x value or an input value. So let's go ahead and say if x is equal to 3, I'll write that a little bit neater, hang on one second. If x is equal to 3, then we can evaluate this function. Then f of 3, since our input is 3, we can go ahead and change that value of x to 3. F of 3 is equal to 4. Now we're going to plug in that 3 where every x is found. So 4 times 3 minus 8. And now we can go ahead and evaluate this. Continue on. F of 3 is equal to 4 times 3 is 12 minus 8. And our final solution, f of 3 is equal to 4. So there's the basics of evaluating a function. Let's go ahead and do another one. Here's function g. So g of t, so we change the name of our function. We also can see, class, you don't have to use x. The t value is still the x-axis value or the input value, but we can label that variable letter anything we want. So g of t, or the function g, is equal to negative 4t squared plus 4t plus 8. Let's go ahead and evaluate this, and let's just say if Let's go ahead and use a different number here. So if t equals 2, then let's evaluate the function. Then g of t is going to be now g of 2, since t is going to be 2, is equal to -4. Remember, class, whenever you plug a variable into an equation, always put it in parentheses so you know mathematically the order of operations. Plus 4 times 2 plus 8. Now remember PEMDAS, we're going to do PEMDAS. We have to do parentheses first. There's nothing to do in parentheses. Now exponent, so we square the 2. This is -4 times 2 squared, which is 4. We can go ahead and finish this up. 4 times 2 is 8. And we're going to add another 8 there. Okay, so let's continue on. Now g of 2 is equal to, fix that equal sign, is equal to -4 times 4, which is -16, plus 8, plus 8. Those are all like terms. If you put those in your calculator, if you cannot do it in your head, you'll see that -16 minus 8 is -8. Sorry, -16 plus 8 is -8, plus another 8 is 0. So -16 plus 8 is equal to 0. So g of 2 is equal to 0. One other note real quick. I noticed some of you in previous weeks have been doing this. Get that error message out of the way. You've been multiplying -4 times 2 first and getting -8 and then squaring it. I want you to remember, in this case, the square goes with the t, not with the -4. That would only be the case if -4 and t were both together in parentheses. Then you'd be squaring both terms. But in this case, we're only squaring the t value, which is 2.